Welcome to the National Security Alert, brought to you by the Citizens Commission on National Security. Now here's your host, Roger Aronoff.
We're here with Louie Gohmert, former congressman from Kilgore, Texas. Louie, great to see you again.
Well, it's great to be with you, Roger. Thank you.
Thank you. So you and I first met about 12 years ago when, with the Citizens Commission on Benghazi, you were the most receptive to what we were doing of any congressman, and we appreciated that so much. We spent 3 hours in your office one day. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we had Claire Lopez, General Tom McInerney, whole group of us, and
That was very, very interesting.
we did a lot of work on that and pretty amazing stuff. So tell me, first of all, what have you been doing since you left Congress?
Well, since I left Congress, I've been doing a lot of traveling and speaking and writing. And the David Horowitz Freedom Center made me a senior fellow for political statesmanship, and I do some speaking and writing for them as well. And in fact, we're about to launch a big program that I think is so important for America, Judicial Accountability Project, to try to hold some federal judges accountable for their violations of the ethical laws. There are laws on the books that they have to follow. They arguably may not apply to the Supreme Court, but they certainly apply to every court that Congress created. And they've just been violated routinely, and they need to be followed, and the Congress needs to do something about it.
Well, that's a good place to start, because the Supreme Court basically ruled that these district judges can't make these nationwide ultimatums and, put...
And you know how those judges responded that were making those nationwide. Some of them just kept making the nationwide proclamations anyway, disregarding the Supreme Court.
So
those are the kind of things that need to be reined in.
And what would it take? Legislation, or, another Supreme Court ruling, or what?
I think it would take the Judiciary Committee of the House and Senate calling them in, putting them under oath, and questioning them about the violations, and if appropriate, then filing articles of impeachment and removing them.
Well, the name that jumps to mind is Boasberg.
Yes, he's been a problem. He has. And there are a number of judges that appear to have violated the law with regard to recusal and other laws that are set out clearly. They've been on the book for many decades. So that needs to be explored, and it's interesting. The Constitution, when it talks about impeachment for the executive branch, it talks about they're being guilty of treason, bribery, high crimes, or misdemeanors, crimes. But Article 3 talks about judges will sit during their good behavior. And if you think about it, it makes so much sense, that especially knowing that most all of the founders were very familiar with biblical scripture, and they knew all of the scripture about impartiality, not favoring the rich, not favoring the poor, not favoring the powerful or the weak. You rule impartially. And it just makes a lot of sense that they would feel, okay, if you're in an elected position, that we're going to say you got to commit some kind of crime before you can be removed from office. But a judge, not necessarily you have to commit a crime, but you just have to behave well. You have to be on good behavior. And that's what they put in the Article 3. You sit as long as you're behaving good.
So that leads us to like the weaponization against Trump.
Yes.
And FISA court. Those judges were lied to clearly about the Steele dossier, about much.
There was at least one or more lies, but some of the judges did not inquire enough. They just went along and they didn't protect constitutional protections. They did not make certain about foreign influence and the evidence integrity. And I was shocked when the one FISA judge found out she had been lied to in a sworn affidavit and seemed to react pretty much ho-hum. When I was a district judge, if a lawyer lied to me, the lawyer was going to jail, contempt of court, and it seemed to be kind of ho-hum, and eventually there was something done to the lawyer, but to me it wasn't nearly enough to send a message. You don't come before the super secret court and lie. You just don't do that, and I don't think enough of a message was sent.
Right. Well, the Inspector General Horwitz said, I believe there were like 17 misrepresentations to the FISA court, and then the one you're talking about is where he said that
they eliminated the word or added the word not, that he had, I believe he had not been held.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So, but it raises the whole weaponization thing, and no one seems to be being held accountable for any of that.
That's been a problem, and I hope that the DOJ is about to. I hope we're about to see some results now. It looks like they're moving in that direction.
Yeah, there's a grand jury down in Florida that's supposedly looking into it, the conspiracy.
I'm hoping people are going to be held accountable. Because like with Peter Strzok, he lied. He covered up for Hillary Clinton. He tried to make a case that didn't exist against President Trump, and in return he got over $1 million settlement. That doesn't send a very good message that you shouldn't be doing what he did.
That was when Andy McCabe called it an insurance policy in case Trump gets elected.
Yeah. Clearly they were trying to prevent Trump from becoming president.
So what other topics are most on top of your mind? How about the war in Iran right now?
Oh, well, I follow everything going on. And, I trust President Trump. He has said that we're not going to be in another Afghanistan, but it was critical that those nukes be taken out, their nuclear capability. And if we leave while they've still got the ability to bomb their neighbors and to even send missiles toward the United States or Europe, then we haven't finished the job. I don't think he's going to put boots on the ground in Iran and have another Afghanistan or even another Iraq. But I trust him, and I think he's going to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I feel the same way. He may send some special forces in to remove the plutonium that's there, but the way I look at this is the end of a 47-year war rather than the start of a new war.
Yeah, and I was in the Army back in '79 when our embassy was attacked and the hostages taken. And, we were told at Fort Benning that, I was in JAG, but we were told that one of our JAG, at least one might be going, and that our one of the groups there may be going within 48 hours. If the saying was, if the flag goes up, the 82nd's going within 24 hours. Engineering battalion be going within 48. So we were all paying attention, and it seemed to me that the Ayatollah's spokesman, who came out constantly to make statements, he kept saying, for, as I recall, it was like 3 days, he was saying that the students have the hostages and we're talking with them. And that appeared clear to me. He was using that as a potential backdoor, that if President Carter had the backbone that President Trump did and said, okay, well, if the hostages aren't loose within 48 hours, I'm sending the entire United States military to get them, and I don't care what gets destroyed and who dies, we're getting our hostages back. I felt like the spokesperson would immediately come out and say, we have negotiated with the students, the hostages are being released. But when after 3 days, they saw that all that President Carter was doing was just begging for them to release the hostages, and that he had taken military action off the table, then they quit saying the students had the hostages, and they eventually started saying, we had the hostages. So I love having a president like President Trump, that when he talks, he means business. And I really believe that if President Trump had been president in 1979, we would not have had 47 years of Iran killing Americans like they have been all these years.
So one of the other people that was at that meeting in your office was Admiral Ace Lyons, who was one of our founding partners in our group. And he talks about how Casey, then the head of the CIA, called him up to create plans to take out the regime and take over Carg Island and all that. And he drew up the plans. He said he had Reagan on board, he had McFarlane on board, but Caspar Weinberger vetoed it. And he told that story many times.
Yeah. I had not heard that story before. That was very intriguing. That was a time when we did have true leaders, but it might have saved a lot of American lives if we had acted then before they got so strong.
So let me ask you about one more thing. We took down the Soviet Union, Reagan, peace through strength, and but what about China? How do you see the threat from China today?
Well, it's been a growing threat for a number of decades now, but and Gordon Chang has been here at CPAC and so eloquent, and he knows the dangers better than most anybody, and he's been shouting for the hilltops for so long. But they have been trying to take over, to embed themselves in America and try to help bring us down. I think Peter Schweitzer had a book that exposed the CCP actually was donating to Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQ groups that, trying to destroy families, destroy our framework, because that's how Marxism works. That's how communism works. You destroy a country from within, and as my dear departed friend David Horowitz explained, when he was one of the top communist leaders in America in the 60s, early 70s, their slogan then is a slogan among communist leaders now in America: the worse, the better. The more chaos you can create, the more destructive you can be, the closer you are to being able to take over the country with communism, Marxism, socialism, progressivism, whatever you want to call it. And so they have been working to destroy our foundation and families and the bedrock of America for decades now. And they have made so much progress. There are groups that are working to stop it and that are waking up now, and thank God they are. But they've made a lot of progress, and with the 4 years of wide open borders that the Biden administration had, we don't know just how many Chinese military age folks came sailing into our country through the southern border, and maybe through the northern border. We don't know, but we know there's a lot that came through.
You feel that the Trump administration is taking it seriously enough?
I know the Trump administration is taking it seriously, and I communicate with Tom Homan. I love that guy. I mean, I know Tom. I know he takes it seriously because he knows the risk to America, and he's scared of something happening, and he doesn't want it to be on his watch. He's doing everything he can to take out the most dangerous illegal aliens to try to save American lives, and I'm grateful he's in the position he is.
I am too. I was concerned when Trump seemed to welcome 600,000 Chinese students to this country.
Yeah, well, I know he's always playing chess and one move ahead, and so I'm not sure what that move was intended to do, but I know there's always a method to what he does.
It's always a great honor to be with Louie Gohmert.
Great visiting with you again. So good to see you again. God bless you.